Right, everybody. I wanted to make a quick video and we could talk about the modals from our English Seminar 2. Hopefully you have been making your way through the different weekly lessons and you haven't had any trouble with that. I've kept them fairly simple. Like this semester, we want to focus on, you've probably figured out, conditionals, then modals, and then modals in the past tense. And then we're going to do some verb structures and vocabulary a little later in the semester. So I just kind of wanted to go over the modals, go over the lecture notes with you that I uploaded to the Moodle and kind of discuss it with you. And that will hopefully make things a little easier or kind of clearer for you. And because my goal is that you guys are able to do well on the be prepared for the credit test and try to make this grammar as clear and easy and simple for you as possible. Something, so you'd be able to use, kind of like teach you or help you understand a few tricks or things that would allow you to able to use these modals in an effective way, not only in this semester in this class, but yeah, for the rest of your life. So, and again, I am just going through the lecture notes that are on, I believe it's unit 4. So, and I just kind of want to review it. So a couple things about modals. I have 5 things that are cool, and they are always followed by another verb. You have to keep that in mind. Of course, if it's a short answer, it's not, but we always say, what a modal is. A modal is would, could, should, might, may. These are modal verbs, okay? They function a little differently than our normal verbs when we create them. If we put them in a question type sentence or a negative sentence, we want to review that. Most of you probably already know that. And one thing you want to remember, it's kind of something we don't think about, but modal verbs are always followed by another verb. So it's always like would go, should live, could buy, might believe, something like that. Now, if it's a short answer, it's like, no, I couldn't. That's different, but that second verb is kind of connected to the sentence, even though we don't say it. Another thing is we don't use to after a modal verb and before another verb. We just, there's a few exceptions, but to that, like have to or ought to, but those are kind of connected into the verb. But you never would say, after would, have a to and then the verb, or should and then a to and then have the verb. You just want to remember that. Okay, so modal verbs 99% of the time are going to have a verb come after them. Okay, and between that modal verb and the other verb, there is never a to. Okay, you want to keep that. Here's our examples. And modal verbs don't need an auxiliary or a helping verb. So like do or doesn't, when we're making a question, we're forming a question or a negative statement, we don't use these kind of helping verbs or auxiliary verbs, as the grammarian people call them. Actually, the modal verb sort of functions as the helping verb. Like I said, a modal verb is always connected to a second verb. So the modal verb is sort of in the grammar slot functions as the helping verb. And so how do we make a question? So here we have, can you close the window? So, there's our modal verb is can, because can functions as a modal verb. And then we have our second verb close, and this is how we structure it. Notice there's no do or does or anything like that. And then in the negative, the Tomasz couldn't find his keys. So we don't have a doesn't or something like that. The modal verb, the way the negative works is at the end of the modal verb, we have an NOT or a not, all right? And this is just kind of how it is. And this is what we're talking about here. We use not after the modal verb to express the negative. Now, there are some exceptions with modal verbs, and this is like don't have to and won't be able to. And the grammar there functions a little bit differently, like the have to, but essentially is like have. It works that way. So now, what are modal verbs like? What do they express? And they express essentially these, they like to break them down. We like to break them down into four things: ability, like you're able to do something; possibility, like it's possible for you to think it or do it; physically, like physically; permission, like you have permission and then you're allowed to do it; and then obligation. And obligation is like you must do it. You're obligated to do it. So for example, if you want to pass this class, you are obligated to take a credit test at the end of the semester and pass it. There's no other way. It's something that's necessary. Okay. And these are what modal verbs express. They kind of, these modes of being or thinking is what they express. And we're going to go over a couple of them that we use more than others and try to put them in context to help you figure them out. And another thing I always tell everyone is that modal verb, it's not really a verb that you conjugate and it goes into the past tense or into the future. And so it's like you don't change the verb. You know, if we have the verb eat, eat can change into ate or eaten or was eating or am eating or will eat. All right. So eat we can like use in now. I'm eating lunch. I'm going to eat dinner. I ate a burrito for breakfast, which I do from some time. So, but modal verbs don't do that. We don't change their form. But so they basically refer to something that's now in the present or something that kind of has an idea or meaning in the future. And the way we can distinguish or figure out what that is based on the context of what we're trying to communicate. So, for example, you should eat better food. All right. Now, is that like we're talking now? Is that in the, is that kind of, is that in the future? Is that now? It's sort of like a little bit of both. You should eat better food. I'm not maybe talking about the meal we're having right now, but I'm saying maybe in general in the future. You should come with us to Mexico. Now there, that's something that's definitely in the future. Okay, so keep that in mind, that a modal verb can refer to the present, now, but also the future. Past modal verbs are different and have a different structure, and we will study those in an upcoming lesson. So right now, just remember, a normal modal verb is present or future, okay? And here's some examples of modal verbs, and I'm going to start with don't have to. A lot of times we don't think of this as a modal verb, but you know, it is, because it's when we say you don't have to do something, you don't have to go to the lecture, you don't have to buy Bojanka a gift for her birthday. You means that you're not obligated to do it. And again, obligation is one of these things that's kind of connected to a modal verb. So our example, Jack doesn't have to work tomorrow. Okay, he's not obligated. So I don't have to listen to you if I don't want to. I'm not obligated. I don't have to obey you. So don't have to is essentially a modal verb. Also have to is essentially, it functions as a modal verb. I have to means that well, let's go to must, because must and have to are very similar, especially in American English. In British English, there's more of a difference. They use must in a lot of places. We don't. We would just use have to. Like so, and must is something you are obligated to do. Okay, it's the opposite of don't have to. So I must finish the project if I want to keep my job. It's our example here. Now, Americans would say, I have to finish this project if I want to keep my job. And the British, not so much. So, and again, like I think I've told you before, I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me if you move between British and American English as the world is getting smaller and people are speaking a different kind of a kind of unified English no matter where they are. That's fine with me. So on the credit test, I accept a British or an American variant. Now, one thing I do want you to remember, that must is never ever used in the past. And I tell people this because I know in Czech, you have musel, musel sem. And the must, or this musel sem in English is had to. So we take have to and we put it in the past and it's had to. All right. Yesterday, musel sem zavolat Boženku. Now, so we can't say must in the past tense in English. It just never. I mean, when we study modal verbs in the past, we'll talk about a different way we explain it. But musel doesn't exist as putting must in this past tense. So we have to say, I had to call Boženka. Okay. All right. I had to. Keep that in mind. That's just something you can always remember. Never use must. Like when you think of musel, must is had to. All right. And the opposite of must is can't. This is British English again. Jack can't finish the project. He's been in a car crash. It means it's impossible for him to do it. And the British think of it that way. And again, can is a modal verb, but can also functions as a normal verb, okay? Because we have a past tense of can, which is could, but the grammar of can is always a modal verb grammar. So we don't use helping verbs. It's like, can you help me? Can you go with me? We don't use any do or does with that. So grammar-wise, it functions as a modal verb, but in other ways, it functions, its meaning can function as a normal verb. Okay, I think some of you probably know this instinctively, but let's get on to modal verbs that we are more aware of and we really want to figure out. And this first one, we're going to start with should. And very often you're going to see here that some people use ought to. This is a British thing. This is an American thing. It doesn't matter. And we use, should it's everywhere. Now, should has various meanings and places we have it. Some of them are now, some of them have a future idea. And what we want to do is I want to simplify and try to find 3 or 4 different places on how we use should. And you can kind of write them down, make notes, and they would help you remember it or think about it. Now, one is expectation. So if you expect something to happen, you really think this is going to happen and you expect it, that this is a place we can use should. We have some examples here. The party should be really great. Pablo is going to be there. So now again, we don't know. The party maybe it won't be great, but I expect it to because Pablo's going to be there. Everyone loves Pablo and Pablo has lots of fun. Excuse me. So this is something I expect. Here's another example. Our last one, the meal should be delicious. Bart is an excellent cook. What do we know? We're going to Bart's house or Bart's making dinner. It should be excellent. It's an expectation. All right. Now, we also use it for advice or a recommendation. Okay, so I'm recommending to you, like, what should I watch in English to get, improve my English? You should watch The Simpsons in English. This is my example here that you can see. It's much better in English. I know a lot of Czech people don't agree with me on that, but I just can't watch The Simpsons in Czech. doesn't work. So so anytime I recommend something or I have advice for you, here we have, you should try that new restaurant, it's really good. Or you should, Tiffany, if you want to understand the Czechs, you should watch Homolkovi. Homolkovi is a great film, and it really shows us what Czech culture is like. Okay, this is advice. You should eat less. You should exercise more. You should study harder. This is advice. Now, criticism. And criticism is very often negative. So, and it's similar to advice. And it doesn't really matter. They overlap. I just don't, I want you to think of it is not like, oh, these are hard rules. These are sort of general patterns, okay? So we have a criticism and it's, like I said, it's often negative. You shouldn't eat so much. You shouldn't drink so much alcohol. You shouldn't spend so much time on TikTok. You should stop lying to everyone. It's like when there's something negative in it, criticism, very often there's something negative in it, okay? And so this is a place we use it. It's connected to advice or recommendation, but criticism's a little more negative, and we're going to use should with that. And then uncertainty. So we're like, whoa, we don't really know. And we use this a lot in questions. What should we do? I'm not sure. Should we go to the movies or to the pub? Well, we can't do either right now, but we're not really sure. Should I come over or not? I don't know if I should order pizza or order a hambach from Hladové Okno. I would probably go for the pizza because the hambach isn't that good. Okay, but this is something that's uncertain and it's in questions and we don't really know. Maybe there's two choices. And these are kind of the 4 places you should. Again, you can download these notes and go through them on your own. Now we have could. And could is similar. I think I want to go through 3 or 4 of these and show how we can use them. And one is possibility. It's possible. Okay, it's just like it's an option, physically possible or mentally possible. So, let's look at the second example here. We could make this work if we wanted to. It means that it's something that it can happen. It's possible. All right. Or here we have this could be the house we're looking for. If you want to buy a house, it's possible. I could meet you on Thursday. It's possible. I'll be there. I'm going to be in Usti on Thursday morning. I could meet you on Thursday. There's something possible about it. And again, these have like sometimes a present tense meaning and a future tense meaning, but we got to figure out the context. Now, another place we use could is with comparative adjectives. And comparative adjectives, like we have an adjective, we have like good, and then better, and then the best. And comparative is the middle one when we're comparing 2 things. So Budvar is better than Branik. Okay, so this is the comparative, and we use could with comparative adjectives in certain structures. It's somewhat useful to know this. So the weather couldn't be worse. You can see here that it's often with couldn't be, and we have worse as our comparative. It means it's just horrible. Boženka couldn't be happier. All right, now that's how she felt when she finally could kick me out. She couldn't be happier. All right, so this is just a structure we use, and just to make you aware of it. I couldn't be more worried. I couldn't be more tired. Again, this is, even though it's a smaller adjective or a longer, it's still that format, right? And we're using it to compare things. I couldn't be more satisfied. She couldn't be more beautiful. Okay, All right, so this is just a structure. We also use it with suggestions, all right? And this is kind of like advice, but not as like what we have with should, but not so strong. So what do we want to do? What should we do? Should we go? What should we do tonight? I don't know. It's like uncertain. And then it's like, oh, we could go to that new Indian restaurant. We could go for a walk down by the river. We could call up Ben and Marushka and see if they have time to meet up for, a beverage. Okay, these are all suggestions. You don't like Uyap? Well, you could try to transfer to Charles. Why not? Or Liberets, you could, it's a suggestion. We also have, you could do Erasmus next year, which means you could try it. And then we use it for unwillingness, and this is almost always negative in the grammar. And this is something that you couldn't do. You just couldn't do it. Now, I couldn't jump. Here we have it. I couldn't jump out of an airplane. Just couldn't do it. I couldn't tell my mom. The truth. It would destroy her. It would destroy her about my brother. I couldn't tell her that he's in jail. Okay. It would destroy her. All right. So this is, I'm unwilling to do something. I'm unwilling to do something. And now we have may and might. Which they're similar, very similar, but not always in the same. And like in general, you can think of may as a little more formal. And we have might or maybe. And this is, a kind of a substitute for although, like clause, and which in this situation, I recommend looking at the Michael Vence. He's got a really short paragraph on this that will explain that really adequately to you. So, but here to kind of give you sort of an idea of what we're talking about here is, she may be attractive, but she's not a very nice person. Which is also, we could say, although she's attractive, she's not a very nice person. And then Donald might be rich, but he's not very smart. Although Donald's rich, he's not very smart. Okay, so this is where you would use an although at the beginning of a clause or a sentence. You could sort of take that out and use might be, or maybe. All right, and then might or may as well. And this means that it's the only thing left to do that makes sense. There's no reason not to do it. All right, there's no reason not to do it. We use this as a phrase. These are kind of like idiomatic phrases almost. So we can say something like, if we're not going out tonight, you don't want to go out. All right, I wanted to go out. You didn't want to go out. If we're not going out tonight, we might as well just start cleaning the windows, so we can, sleep in the morning and not have to do it tomorrow. So, or, it's like, I'm tired and I'm sort of falling asleep, but I have only got 2 pages left to read and I might as well just finish the chapter. Okay, just kind of like, this is a structure we use, all right? And then we use just may, or that may. Again, those are might be, may be, and if you can see, might as well or may as well. The as well is important there. And then this is just might or may for uncertainty. And again, this is something, I think you know what this is. It's like, you're not sure about it. Like we haven't made a decision. We don't really know. And again, may is more formal here. We might try and visit Aunt Midge next week, but we'll see. They may phone us after they get home. It's like, we don't really know. It's uncertain. You can use like could here too. They could phone us after the game because it's possible. All right. He might go. Who knows? I don't know. He may go. We don't know. It's uncertain. What's clear, though, is there's a difference between he should go he could go, and he might go. If he should go, we're expecting him to go. If we say that he should go, or he could go rather, he has the ability to go, he has the time, and then, you know, he might go. It's like, we don't know. We don't know if he's going to go. So in this situation, might and could are kind of similar. We're expressing a similar idea. All right. And then we have try as I may or try as I might. And again, I recommend looking at events on this. And we would use it. It's an idiomatic expression, and may refers, we would use may. Try as I may is something that we use in the present, and try as I might refers to the past. And I don't make a big distinction there because actually we kind of switch those around a lot. All right. I again recommend taking a look at those. And then we use can. And can, it means to be able to, like in Czech, I believe that's umět. And we use it with be to make criticisms and talk about what's possible. Can also can be, if you want to think of can, we can put it at you. If we want to put can in the past, we could use it as could, but then it has a slightly different meaning. But I just put this here because, like, so for example, the winters in Bohemia can be quite ugly, okay, especially if you live in a place where there's inversion like I do. And, you know, Fraser can speak 5 languages, all right? So that's what he can do. He can do that. So can just means to be able. He can, you know, he can, Josh can swim across the Labe in under 2 minutes. It's just he's able to do it physically. Okay. All right. And that's basically what we have with the Modals. So what I do want to encourage you to do is look at the Michael Vince unit and his explanations, and they're very clear. It's a self-study thing. One of the reasons we chose that book is like this, one of these units on the modals specifically are really useful, and he explains it, this advanced level grammar in an effective way. So look at that stuff, try to do those exercises because they'll help you. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to me, and good luck, and that's it.